We were talking about Antone's records and you starting it, and yours was the first album. Do you remember who was the second?
Well, I know that Ronnie Earl Horvath had, and he had recorded an album already.
Was that a live record or was that studio?
I think it was a studio record.
Okay.
He found out about us and said, look, I have this record and I don't have any way to get it out there. So that's like, okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Because I didn't, I couldn't hire somebody and
bring them out.
Well, yeah, pay for the studio and do all that kind of stuff. Nope.
Right.
So
you had quite a lot of them were live records, as I recall. I mean, Jimmie Rogers was a live record.
Yeah.
I think mainly was maybe some of it studio. Was that studio?
Yeah, some of it was studio. I think Cotton did some things in the studio.
Cotton did.
And he people who came there kind of regularly, but
it seemed like a lot of records were kind of half and half, like part studio and part live.
Yeah. But it was whatever was possible.
Right.
And I wasn't in on all of those records and how they happened, but because I had my career.
Right.
I didn't just play at Antone's and all that kind of stuff. So, but that's how I ended up in Los Angeles, and then did a few gigs up here. We did some things in Los Angeles, and that was really fun. And then we heard about there's some things happening in San Francisco. Bill Graham was the Avalon, and later.
Oh, so you're
Bill
talking
Graham's
really
places.
early on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so I had this wonderful job. Yes, in a record store, Clark's Records #2 on Divisadero Street.
Really?
I was into blues and jazz,
Right.
and rhythm and blues, and so that they had it all.
Right.
But my other job there, and one reason I was hired, maybe I don't know, I made 8-track tapes. So that's what I could contribute, is that I had enough technical skill to make custom 8-track tapes.
Okay.
That's what
like
people wanted,
tapes.
because
mixtape.
they didn't want just what was available commercially.
Right.
They wanted their stuff that they liked.
So you were the originator of mixtapes.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought I could say that, but I'm happy if you want to say that.
Now, what year was that? Was it 70s?
The Summer of Love.
Okay, so that was 67 you were out here.
Okay, yeah.
Wow. Okay, I didn't realize that. So were you going to the Fillmore and the Avalon during that time?
I did go, after work. That was amazing to hear somebody like Bucka White and then Cream in the same night.
That is pretty much of a mind bender. Totally different genres back to back. Yeah. It's a great thing.
I think.
Nobody else really had the balls or the foresight
exactly
kind of make that happen. Mm-hmm. Let me just throw out some albums that are like some of my favorites on the label. The Jimmie Rogers one to me is an amazing record.
Yes.
With Kim and Big Eyes and Calvin and Pine Top, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great album. The other one was the Eddie Taylor one.
Oh yeah.
With Tucker and Snooki on it. That's one of my favorites.
God, we're so glad. Yeah, I mean, we were so glad to get Eddie.
Yeah. And he really thought a lot of Clifford. I remember when I brought him out in 1982, and he goes, "Yeah, that's the only man. He gave me his guitar, man. He gave me." I think he gave him a 335 or 355. Yeah,
that's right.
Right.
He gave people what they needed, and Hubert needed a decent guitar.
Right.
And
Clifford
got
would
a
give it to
wonderful
him.
one and some eyeglasses too, because it turned out he really could.
Blind as a bat.
And he was just lost after Wolf died.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew that he was. Yeah.
But I got to see that act.
You saw Wolf and Hubert
on New Year's Eve.
Wow. Did you get to meet him?
Yes, I did. Well, I was wondering. I wasn't thinking I'd get to meet him, but believe me, he was in there. You didn't go in the place without him knowing who was coming in.
Interesting.
And especially on that night, it was New Year's Eve. There was Hubert on stage, just being his completely timid self. You could even tell back then, he was just so timid. You just
Eddie Shaw
knew
was
that.
there.
Yeah, that's right. He was. And Wolf, and I thought that I'd seen these English films or whatever with Wolf, and he's sitting down and doing this and that, He might have sat down for a few numbers, but the next thing I knew, he was crawling on the stage and crawling up the curtains.
Right, I've heard.
And I was just, I couldn't close my mouth,
That's so great. Yeah. I love that story about him climbing up the curtains and then sliding down. I missed him. I never got to see him. So the other one I wanted to bring up was somebody you knew pretty well was Muddy.
Yes.
And you guys had him to the... Did you see him in Chicago before?
I did see him in Chicago.
Okay.
But it was at a club on the north side, Mother Blues.
Oh, Mother Blues, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Mother Blues.
Right.
So I went to Mother Blues, and yeah, that was a tame scene. But it was somehow, I guess I was there early maybe, and so I looked out into the room, and at a table was sitting Muddy and whoever else from the band or not from the band, I don't know. But anyway, I got my courage up and went over and introduced myself, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm glad you're going to be at the show. And it's kind of like, you're from where? I guess I had a little bit of an accent.
Right.
Muddy said, you're from Texas and you want to be here in Chicago.
Why?
Because to hear I said, I want to hear real Chicago blues. So I had to come here to hear.
Yeah.
So there I was, and so got to meet Muddy, and he was so gracious, of course.
Yeah.
And I got to hear him with Span and the band.
Wow, did you?
That was something. I remember it was one of the three Luthers, or two of them that night.
Yeah, it was probably Luther Johnson and
Luther Allison.
probably Luther Johnson and Pee Wee.
Oh yeah.
Or with Sammy Lawhorn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that was the thing about seeing Muddy at Antone's. I got to see him directing the musicians.
Right.
Everybody got to do their thing. Mm-hmm. He showed off everybody, but he was in control.
He was in control.
And nobody was going to do a solo that went on for 5 minutes.
You had your two choruses, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe
just
two.
say what you have to say and move on.
Get out.
And we're moving on.
That's right.
And so that was a good lesson too.
Yeah. Now, was that him with his band, are you saying? Or was it... Because I know those guys, he had like Kim and Jimmy sit in or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of times.
Yeah. There was something about the old cats and the humility that they had.
Yes.
That was something that really got to me.
Yes.
That for the kind of talent that these guys had, they still were so down to earth and so friendly.
Absolutely.
And so giving with their,
yes,
stories or whatever.
Yes.
Not all of them. I mean,
not all, but
some of them could be.
Yeah,
cantankerous.
I know.
Gatemouth or whoever.
Yeah. We knew Albert King.
Right, Albert King. Albert was really nice to me.
Listen,
he was beautiful.
He had that side of him for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. He demonstrated that big time.
Yeah.
The thing about it was that I finally figured out that the black kids, like the kids and the grandkids of those artists, they weren't trying to learn blues.
Not at all.
They didn't want to do their grandparents' music.
Right.
They wanted to do something new.
It'd be like me and you listening to Frank Sinatra when we were
something
teenagers.
like that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I figured that out. That they appreciated what we were doing because they knew we were sincere about it,
right.
and that we did our homework,
right.
and did our best, and our best effort. Yeah. And they really appreciated that because they didn't want that music to die.
Right.
And, folk music has ebbs and whatever. Yeah. It was down there at the time.
Absolutely.
It was like, who wants to do that, try to do that for a living?
BB was at a point in the mid-'60s where he had to drop his band down to a quartet.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a guy that had a 7, 8 piece band, had to drop it down to a quartet. Mm-hmm. So, these guys were struggling to just survive.
That's right.
So I think you're right. I think the fact that, and I mean, I always felt like that when I moved here, because my introduction to blues around here was in the ghetto clubs. That was the only places you could find it.
Right.
And it was like the fact you could go in these places and people wouldn't throw rocks at you.
Right.
That was a big deal, to actually have them accept and like what you were doing.
Yep.
Because they go, well, he's sincere about it. You didn't have to have guitar sound like Albert King, but you got to sound like you mean it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, tell me about the trips that you guys did, where you did the big tours with Clifford and the bus, and went all over the West. I think that was mainly the West, wasn't it?
Yes. That was exactly.
Right.
We did stop in Phoenix.
Right.
Because there was that blues club there that still exists, and thanks to
Tell about Bob's place?
Bob Cortor.
Right.
Yes,
the rhythm room.
Yeah, exactly. So that was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful, absolutely. And reminded me of Antone's.
Yeah.
And so, but Clifford had this ridiculous idea of bringing the whole thing out to the West Coast and just, playing San Francisco. We didn't play San Diego, San Francisco, and we worked our way up to Vancouver.
Right.
And that's when I remember Sue Foley.
Right, in Vancouver.
She was she saw the show or whatever.
Really? Okay.
And the next thing I knew it, she was trying to be in Texas.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what year was that? Do you remember? Was that 89 or 90?
I think that's right. I think 89 was ringing a bell.
Yeah.
A bell.
Well, 89, actually, we were on the road pretty much the whole year, me and Sue and her band.
Huh?
So it was probably not 89, it was probably 90.
Okay.
The only reason I can remember dates is because so much of the tours that I did.
Yeah.
That's kind of, and who I played with, I can usually remember some sort of timeline because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you were very nice to Sue. I know that.
Oh.
That you really mentored.
As it should be.
You really mentored her. I mean,
it was the same thing with her. I knew she was sincere, and
exactly.
that she was gonna whatever. And of course, she just blew my mind when I was in Boston recently.
Sure.
And she was up there, boy. She was putting it down on the guitar. Like, whoa.
Sure is.
Look out.
Sure is. Yeah.
And,
I agree.
so
she's come a long way.
It really tickled me.
Yeah.
And I was thrilled because she recorded 2 of my songs.
That's
2
great.
Texas Town.
Wow, that's great. That's awesome.
She's recorded several songs.
Yeah. So on that one big Antone's tour, it was Buddy Guy, Jimmy Rogers, Luther Tucker, Albert Collins was on it.
Yes.
I know Kim was there. You were obviously there.
Yeah, we did something big out here.
Right.
And it might have been one of the first San Francisco blues festivals or something like that.
Right. The new album. And you said it's been 17 years since you recorded an album.
Yeah.
So that's a long time.
I know. That's how Bob put it when he taught me, when he said, look, don't you think your fans would like to hear from you?
Right.
He didn't say before something bad happens, but that was sort of what he meant. It's like, look, why not now?
Yeah.
It happened to be during it was December, people were off for the holidays.
Right.
Well, Mike Shermer was.
Now, is he still with Marcia Ball? Or?
No, not now.
So he's back in California.
Marcia retired for the 20th time.
Oh, okay. All right.
For the 20th time.
Oh, okay.
I'm laughing. We love her, and we tease her about that all the time. It is
That's a great way to get people to come to your shows, though, right? I'm going to retire. You better come see me this time.
You couldn't take her for granted.
Right.
And she has cut down her. She used to tour endlessly,
I know
which made it a great band for somebody like Mike Shermer to play.
Right.
He got to see not the world, but the country at least.
A whole lot of it. Yeah.
So that you can't beat that.
Absolutely.
And she's just a great gal. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. And you guys had the thing with you and Marcia and Luann Barton.
Oh yeah.
What was that called originally?
That
wasn't the blues. That wasn't the blues.
We never came up with a good
group name. But it was basically a triumvirate of Texas blues.
And Sarah Brown played bass.
Sarah Brown,
in that group too.
Right.
So that was really, really fun.
Yeah. I came and saw you guys a couple
times.
That's
why I insisted on forming the Blues Broads.
Right.
Here is because we all had talent, but we all had different styles.
Mm-hmm.
So we could show off our individual styles, but then get together as a duo. Or as a trio, or all four of us together.
Right.
And that made it so much more interesting to me, and it took the load off each of us too, to not be the front person.
This is kind of like the blowouts, my harmonica blowouts, sort of a similar idea, but
definitely.
I love what you guys have done with your thing, and I wish I had done more of that with these, with my shows.
Yeah.
Because there's something really cool about the collaboration aspect that you guys do.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool thing to have going. And I have not concentrated enough on that on my end.
Okay.
But gives me something to work on for this next one.
I'm glad we're inspiring. Inspirational on that.
But the people I know on that you've had are Annie Sampson.
Indispensable. And just a long time friend,
right?
And so we're really tight. And Dorothy Morrison, but she came here because the Sons of the Soul Revivers were playing here, and it was a Sunday afternoon or something. And I walked in, and she was seated at the bar, and I had that opportunity to meet her, and I said, "Look, Dorothy, I know you're from the gospel world. But I know you've done other things in your career."
Was she an Edwin Hawkins?
Yeah, she was
Edwin Hawkins
Singers.
Right.
And she was at the Monterey Pop Festival, and I've seen the film to prove it.
Wow.
And I started talking fast to Dorothy because I knew that because the church people are likely to just sort of
turn their
say,
frown on
it's the old devil's music kind of thing, And even though we all appreciate each other, of course, but still, I was very, I said, "Look, Dorothy, I know that the word blues is conjuring up things in your mind, but I just want you to know, if you would come out here some afternoon in the summer, we have these outdoor shows, and the Blues Bros are going to play there, but some other people are playing that you might appreciate too. And I don't know if there was anybody actually on our show that I could tempt her with, but anyway, she listened, and eventually she showed up, and she got it. She heard the Broads, She heard the Broads, and she knew, because we weren't doing anything bawdy.
Right.
Which sometimes people slip into that aspect.
I know how to treat your man better than you.
All that stuff.
Right.
And that never appealed to us.
I can
so
understand.
We just didn't go there. And I think once Dorothy saw that, she said, "Oh, I'm in."
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's when I got serious about the Broads.
Good.
And got us going. And
that's
we were
great.
lucky enough we did a gig at the Sweetwater.
Yeah.
And it had that high stage, and we were able to video it from have a proper video shoot. Thanks to Bob Brown.
Good.
And
because
it's kind of good to have a mentor.
Yeah.
And Bob really
certainly knows
helped
that
a lot of artists, but
knows the
routine.
we
sure needed and appreciated that lift because then we had something we could show people what we did, because it was a little hard to describe it, and none of us had. I mean, we had individual careers, but we hadn't made a record together.
Now, is it the three of you, or is there one other singer on there that I'm missing?
Tracy Nelson.
I know Tracy does a lot of them, but she doesn't do all of them, right?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. It's just that she has to travel from Nashville.
Right.
And
so generally,
that's no fun.
Yeah. So generally, the three of you,
pandemic.
and then if you're lucky, you can get Tracy in.
Yeah. Well, we kind of insist on it because we do so many songs that involve either two or three of us or four of us. So.
Gotcha.
And then we can do individual songs to show off our own strengths.
Yeah.
No,
Tracy's been amazing for as long as I've been here to sing. Yeah. It's a great concept that you guys came up with. And, thanks to you, I remember you helped me with Huey Lewis and getting him hooked up with me on the blowouts. You
sure.
hooked me up
Oh,
with
he
that.
was always, he was a real blues guy and could really blow.
Right,
Yeah.
and you gave me his number, and he called me back, and I got him to do a few shows. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
It was a great opportunity.
Nice. Yeah. That was probably one reason I ended up getting to do a gig at Madison Square Garden.
Wow.
I always forget to put that on my resume.
Was that with Huey?
Well, that was because of Huey, yes. And so, but Gregg Allman was on the keyboards and so, some heavy people.
Wow.
So I got to get up there and do a couple with
That's
them.
amazing.
So
Wow.
that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And later on, of course, when I was doing gigs with Steve, known as these days as Stevie Ray Vaughan, but back then it was just Stevie Vaughan, and that was the kid brother who would hang out at Antone's,
Right.
and just hoping to see Albert King, which he did, got to know Albert, and Albert ended up putting him on some shows, and eventually, but I went out with Stevie. To his when he would take a tour that he thought was really significant. So I got to play there at the CBS Record Convention in Hawaii.
Wow.
Yeah, which was a big deal, and it was a 2-night thing.
Yeah.
And then of course there was Carnegie Hall.
Wow.
That's something you can tell the folks.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
You can tell the folks.
Oh yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm playing Carnegie Hall.
That says
and
something.
It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, that says something. Yeah.
It's just
Absolutely.
nice. They were always supportive as much as they could be,
Yeah.
And so that was nice for them
That's
to be able
wonderful.
to tell their friends.
Yeah, that's great. That's a thrill.
Yeah.
So with this album,
Yeah.
you recorded this. What was this recorded last year? Okay.
Yeah.
And you did this. What's it?
Laughing Tiger
Laughing
Studios
Tiger,
in San Rafael.
Okay, you said
And
you did one 17 years ago. Yeah.
No, previously.
I mean,
To this one. Yeah.
I'm saying the album before was
Yeah, that's
17
right.
years ago
Yes.
at the same studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the same
Okay.
studio. So.
And who's on this
so-
besides Mike Shermer on guitar?
Well, he is the one person that there were sort of basically two bands
Okay.
because the styles were so different. And so, but Mike Shermer was on the guitar on every cut,
Mm-hmm.
and we had two different rhythm sections. Bill Gibson actually from the Huey Lewis band.
Oh,
We
okay.
played on. I did a Chuck Berry song,
Wow.
and so he played on that because it was perfect. He brought down a stripped down, so just a snare and a whatever,
Cool.
and he knew what to do.
Yeah.
He knew
Yeah.
what not to do.
Yeah.
And so that was perfect. And so that was a lot of fun. And John Allaire played keys a lot.
Okay.
And Jim Pugh
Yeah.
also.
Yeah, of course.
Walter Morgan Jr., which
Okay.
also called Gomez, is part of the Morgan family, the Sons of the Soul Revival. And Paul Ravelli,
Paul
of course,
Drummer,
was
right. Good.
a long time
Paul's
drummer. and
Great
complete pro
drummer. Yeah.
and all
Yeah.
that,
He's a
you
real
know.
pro. Yeah.
Yep. So
Absolutely.
he got no problem having him in the studio.
Right. Right. He can do anything you want.
So it
Yeah.
made it was so comfortable with the people that were there
Yeah.
that it just flowed like that. So we did the whole thing in 8 days.
Wow.
We used a lot of the first takes,
Wow.
which like we were talking
Yeah.
about that.
Oh yeah.
That's when you're for me it's important, and I always try to make sure that the engineer is ready to go. It's like, no, we're not going to do this 5 times and then do the first take. we are ready to go, and you better get the first take because that's sometimes
That's going to be it.
what I want is my original energy, my original take on the song, or as far as
The
being
drive,
in the studio.
the drive that you have. Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of first takes, and then you can always clean things, terrible things up. But when you start nitpicking and trying to make everything perfect, blues is not about perfection.
No, it's not. It's got to have some rough edges to it.
Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing. I'm just curious. Did you do like you do a take, and then move on to something else, and then come back and do another take of it, or generally
No,
you wouldn't do that?
we would do a take, and usually it was like, oh yeah,
that's it.
We nailed it.
Right.
Or it's, oh, okay, well, we need to change this and that in the arrangement or the whatever. And if Mike Shermer said, I think I could do better or something like that, yeah, fine. I'm always happy. I gotta feel that guitar.
Did you use overdubs
Inspiration.
on it? Did you use overdubs at all, or not really?
Just the horns, I think.
The horns,
because they had to be in another room
Right.
anyway.
Right.
And there was no, I didn't use the horns that much, but they were doing complicated things, so they needed all, everything, all the space they could have.
Well, I can't wait to hear it. I think I heard the Bobby Blanchard on here too.
All right, because it starts with that, which
Right.
is sort of a weird way to start a record, because it's a pretty subtle,
Really?
it's a pretty subtle song,
Oh, I like that.
vocally. So I love that.
Yeah, no, I love that. Take out some insurance. Yeah.
So then, of course, I got it.
I remember that was the first song I ever sat in with you doing.
All right.
I think when I met you in Austin. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty funny to go from
Yeah.
the sophistication of.
Well, that's what it's all about. To
two
blues.
steps.
I mean, I think we both
two.
I think love that real wide,
from the uptown to the
yeah,
low
from
down.
the low down to uptown. I have an album called that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's
so
right.
yeah. No, I think we both appreciate that, and that makes a big. That's a big thing, and I've stolen a couple licks from you here and there too.
Good. I'm glad. Thrilled to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't you know it?
Yeah.
That's when you know you're somebody.
Well, you are somebody. You've been doing this a long, long time, and I think the fact that you had such a big influence in Antone's, with both the label and the club, and just I mean, in a lot of ways, I think that you're doing what I like to do, which is create something, create a scene,
Exactly.
creating a scene and making people all feel like part of the scene.
Yeah.
That's so important.
Yes.
In blues,
Yeah.
because all of us out here on our own, it's too tough.
It is. It's
You know
tough.
what I mean?
That's right.
It's
It
too
really
tough.
is. I think people don't necessarily appreciate that. They think, wow, I wish I could be up there. I wish I could be an artist and everything. Well, it's a wonderful thing, but it can be lonely out there if things
You
aren't.
need friends. I mean, is what it comes down to.
And
Everybody,
supporters, yeah.
they need supporters.
Yeah, and a lot of times it is other musicians,
Right.
and or at least it starts that way. So that's appropriate,
Yeah.
and I'm thrilled to be a fan.
Yeah.
And not just
So am I.
blues. I'm a fan of all kinds of music.
Yeah.
And I'm
Same here.
Whatever gets me, whatever rings true,
Right.
it is all right with me.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure.
It's been my
Thank you
pleasure.
so much, Angela. Thank you so much. You really have a lot of great stories, and I love where you're coming from with it all.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.